Book of Baruch by Justin. Narrated by Matthew Schmitz. Oath of Secrecy. If you would know what eye has not seen nor ear heard, and what has not arisen in the human heart, and who stands high above all good, swear to keep the mystery of instruction secret. Our Father, who saw the good perfected in him, has kept the mysteries of silence secret. He has sworn and will not waver. Here is his oath. I swear by the one over all, which is the good, to keep these mysteries, to tell them to no one, and not to go from the good back to the creation. When you take this oath, you enter the good, and see what eye has not seen nor ear heard, and what has not arisen in the human heart. You drink from the living water, the washing, the spring of living water bubbling up, and there was a separation of waters from waters, and the waters below the firmament belong to the evil creation. In them are washed those who are earthly and psychical. The waters above the firmament belong to the good and are alive. The spiritual and the living are washed in them, as Elohim was after the washing. He did not waver. The myth of the creators. There were three ungenerated principles governing the cosmos, two male and one female. One of the male principles is called the good, and it alone carries that epithet and knows everything ahead of time. The other male principle is named Father of all things, begotten in the world, has no forethought, and he is unknown and invisible. The female is angry. She knows nothing ahead of time, and she has two minds and two bodies, as in Herodotus's myth. She is a virgin above and a viper below. She is called both Edem and Israel. These are the principles of the cosmos, the roots and pools from which all sprang, and nothing else was in the world. When the Father, knowing nothing beforehand, saw that half-virgin Edem, he burned for her, and he, the Father, is called Elohim. And Edem burned equally for Elohim. Their desire drew them to a single union of love. From this coupling, the Father seated 12 angels for himself through Edem. The paternal angels are Michael, Amen, Baruch, Gabriel, Esaias. The maternal angels are Babel, Achamoth, Nas, Bel, Belias, Satan, Sael, Adonias, Coathan, Pherioth, Carchamenos, and Lathan. Of these 24, the paternal ones side with the Father and obey his will in everything, and the maternal ones hear their mother, Edem. Their common domain is paradise, about which Moses tells us, God planted paradise east of Eden, before the face of Edem, and therefore she always looks at paradise, her angels. The angels of paradise are allegorically called trees, and the tree of life is the third paternal angel, and his name is Baruch, while the tree of knowledge of good and evil is the third maternal angel, and he is Nas. Moses spoke these things covertly because not everyone can hold the truth. The creation of Adam and Eve. After paradise came into being through the love of Elohim and Edem, the angels of Elohim took some of the best earth, not from the bestial, naked part of Edem, but from her upper civilized regions, and from that good earth they made man. But from the bestial land came wild beasts and creatures. They made man a symbol of their union and love, and planted some of their powers in him. Edem provided the soul, and Elohim the spirit. The man Adam was a seal and memory of their love. an eternal symbol of the wedding of Edem and Elohim. And, as Moses wrote, Eve was image and symbol, and the seal of Edem preserved forever. Edem set the soul in Eve, and Elohim the spirit, and they were given commandments. Be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth. Edem gave away all her power to Elohim, like a marriage dowry, and, till this day, in imitation of that first marriage, a woman comes to her husband with a dowry, obeying a holy and hereditary law that Edem carried out toward Elohim. The angels are divided. When, according to Moses, everything was created, including heaven and earth and all therein, the 12 angels of the mother were divided into 4 principles, and each quadrant is called a river: Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. Huddled in these 4 parts, the 12 angels circle around and govern the cosmos. Their authority over the world comes from Edem. They are not forever in the same region, but, as in a circular course, they move from place to place at fixed intervals and periods according to their assignments. When the angels of Pishon rule a region, then famine, distress, and tribulation foul that segment of the earth, for their criterion for ruling is avarice. And in all regions come bad times and disease according to each power and nature. There is a torrent of evil pouring out, like the rivers, and constantly around the world, Edem's will controls every quadrant. Elohim's Ascent. The necessity of evil has this circumstance. When Elohim and Edem in mutual love made the cosmos, Elohim chose to rise to the highest part of heaven to see if their creation lacked any elements. He took his angels with him and rose, as was his nature, and he abandoned Edem below, who, being earth, declined to follow her husband upward. When Elohim reached the upper border of heaven, he saw a light stronger than the sun he created, and he said, "Open the gates for me to enter and to acknowledge the Lord. I had thought I was the Lord." He heard a voice out of the light saying, "This is the Lord's gate. The just pass through it." The gate was immediately opened, and the Father, without his angels, went into the good, and saw what eye has not seen or ear heard, and what has not arisen in the human heart. The good said to him, "Sit down at my right hand." The Father said to the good, "Let me destroy the cosmos I made. My spirit is imprisoned among people. I want to take it back." Then the good told him, "Nothing which comes from me can be evil. In your companion, love, you and Edem made the world. Let Edem keep the creation as long as she wishes, but you must stay with me." Edem's Response. Then Edem knew she was abandoned by Elohim, and sorrowfully began to gather angels around her and adorn herself brightly to arouse his return. But under the good's control, Elohim no longer descended to Edem. Then Edem commanded Babel, which here means the goddess Aphrodite, to incite fornication and divorce among people, so that, as she was separated from Elohim, the spirit of Elohim in people might feel affliction and be tormented and suffer like her, Edem, his abandoned wife. And Edem gave grand authority to Nas, her third angel, to torture the spirit of Elohim in people with all possible tortures, so through that spirit Elohim might himself be tortured, he who had abandoned Edem in cold violation of their covenant. Elohim sends down his angel Baruch. When the Father Elohim saw these things, he sent down Baruch, his own third angel, to comfort the spirit living in all people. When Baruch came, he stood among the angels of Edem, in the midst of paradise. Paradise was the angels among whom he stood, and he commanded the people to eat from every tree in paradise, except from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which tree is Nas. They could obey the other 11 angels of Edem, For though they have passions, they do not disobey the commandment. But Nos disobeyed. He approached Eve and seduced her and debauched her, which is a transgression. And he approached Adam and played with him as a boy, which is a transgression. So adultery and pederasty were born. Since then, evil and good have ruled people. It began from a single source. When the Father ascended to the good, he showed the way for those who wished to rise, and by leaving Edom, he began the evil for his spirit in people. Baruch searches for a savior. Baruch went to Moses and, through him, spoke to the children of Israel to turn them back to the good. But Edom's third angel Nos barred his way. Through the soul Edom gave him, and Moses and all people, Nos expunged Baruch's orders, and only Nos's commandments were heard. And so soul was set against spirit, and spirit set against soul. The soul is Edom, while the spirit is Elohim, and each is in both man and woman. Then Baruch was sent down to the prophets, so that the spirit living in people might hear and flee from Edom, and her corrupt creation, as once Father Elohim fled. But Nos, using his old tactics, dragged the Father's spirit down into the soul of people he seduced, who scorned Baruch's words in Elohim's commandments. Then Baruch chose a prophet from the uncircumcised, Heracles, and sent him to subdue the 12 angels of Edom, and free the Father from the 12 evil angels of the creation. These are the 12 labors in which Heracles contended, from first to last, with the lion, the hydra, the boar, and the rest. And they are names of nations given to them from the power of the maternal angels. Just when he seemed victorious, Omphale, who is Babel or Aphrodite, attacked him and seduced him and took away his strength, and Baruch's commandments ordered by Elohim. And then she wrapped him in her own robe, the power of Edom, the power from below. Heracles' prophecies and work were nothing. Baruch finds Jesus. Finally, in the days of King Herod, Baruch was sent once more by Elohim, and he came to Nazareth and found Jesus, son of Joseph and Mary, feeding sheep, a boy of 12, and he told him everything that had happened from the beginning, from Edom and Elohim, and all that will be. He said, "All the prophets before you were seduced, but Jesus, earthly son, try not to be seduced, and preach the word to people and tell them about the Father and the good, and ascend to the good and sit with the Elohim, Father of us all." Jesus' crucifixion and ascent. And Jesus obeyed the angel. He said, "Lord, I will do all things." He affirmed this. Nos wanted to seduce him too, but he could not. Jesus kept faith with Baruch. Then Nos was enraged because he could not seduce him, and he had him crucified. Jesus left his body to Edom by the tree and ascended to the good. He said to her, "Woman, here is your son." He left his soul and earthly body, but his spirit he placed in the hands of the Father, and then he ascended to the good. Allegorical interpretations. The good is Priapos, who created before anything was. He is called Priapos because he made everything. So in temples, everywhere, he is honored by all creation. On the roads he walks carrying fruits of creation, whose cause he was, since he created before anything was. Now, when you hear that the swan lay on Leda, and produced a child from her, the swan is Elohim, and Leda is Edom. When they say that the eagle came upon Ganymede, the eagle is Nos, and Ganymede is Adam. When you hear one say that gold came upon Danae, and produced a child from her, the gold is Elohim, and Danae is Edom. In this way, these tales are interpreted, comparing them to similar myths. When the prophets say, "Hear, heaven, and listen. Earth, the Lord has spoken," the spirit of Elohim in people is heaven, and soul living within the spirit in people is earth. The Lord is Baruch, and Israel Edem. And Elohim's wife is called Edem and Israel. Israel did not know me, and if she had known that I am with the good, she would not have tortured the spirit that lives in people because of the ignorance of the Father. When the prophet is said to take a woman for himself to fornicate because the earth has fornicated behind the Lord, even as Edem behind Elohim, in these words the prophet clearly tells the whole mystery. But because of Nas's wickedness, he is unheard.